Hey everybody, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio today. And today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I don't do a lot of digital audio, or at least like computer-based kind of stuff on my channel. I stick to more hardware, guitars, things like that. But I have done retro computing before with the Commodore Amiga series that I did a while back. And today I've got something similar but different for you. Today I've put together a retro digital audio workstation over here, and I'm going to experiment with this. What I'm going to do, just to keep it simple enough to keep the video from getting too long, is I'm going to see if this retro digital audio workstation can record 8 tracks simultaneously of live drums, and then I'm going to see if the software in here can make those drum tracks sound really cool and sound good with just the stuff in the box, so to speak. So what I've got here is a Macinotsh PowerBook G3. This was codenamed Pismo. This is a 400 megahertz PowerPC Mac. It's running macOS 9.2.2. This machine has 2 firewire ports. So I'm using one of the 2 firewire ports for this Lacie external firewire hard drive enclosure, and I have a Hitachi 160 gig hard drive in here. Now I'm using the other firewire port on the PowerBook G3 to connect it to the MOTU 828 audio interface. This thing is great because it'll work with this retro Mac, it'll work with more modern Macs, it'll work with most any version of Windows, and it's just a great unit, especially for how much compatibility it has. So I'm going to use this as our interface, the Lacie external firewire drive as our media drive, which you can probably kind of see. The PowerBook hard drive is only like 6 gigs. It has the original IDE internal hard drive. It does have 1 gig of RAM. I originally got this free. Somebody gave 2 of these things to me, and I scavenged the parts from one to put this one together. It is still working, and it was made in 2000. So this is a 20-year-old PowerBook G3, a 20-year-old Macinotsh with these 2 external devices. I'm going to see if I can record. Now I have the MOTU 828 connected to the Soundtracs Topaz, and the MOTU only has 2 mic preamps, so we're just going to use the mic preamps on the Soundtracs Topaz with a whole different drum mic setup. So I'm going to show you the specs of this PowerBook G3 and show you the drum mic setup. And we're just using the Soundtracs Topaz preamps. See if this thing can record 8 tracks at a time without any kind of hiccups or flaws. See if it can still do that, and then see what we can do with software that was available back then to make these drum tracks sound cool. So there's the About This Mac screen, showing that we're running macOS 9.2.2, 1 gig of built-in memory. I have virtual memory turned off. Tried to minimize the glare on this as much as possible, but this is the Apple System Profiler report for this computer, showing the Finder version, OS version, disk cache, memory type, the memory modules that are in it, the machine ID, PowerPC G3 400 megahertz. And there's what the display card in this, the Rage M3. And our display is 1024 by 768, millions of colors. Very nice. So this is the drum mic setup I have for this retro digital audio workstation experiment. I'm using the pair of Rode NT1s as a spaced pair of overheads. I have the PVM 480 over there on the hi-hat. I'm using the GLS Audio ES57 on the first tom. The second rack tom is an Audix i5. The floor tom is also mic'd with an Audix i5. We've got an Audix D6 on the kick drum. For this demonstration, I have an old version of Bias Deck, which is multi-track recording software. Now, the MOTU 828 I'm using is capable of 24-bit 48 kilohertz audio, but Deck is not. Deck is limited to 44 1/16-bit. When you open up Deck, there's not anything there except for this backdrop here. You've got to go to Windows, and I want the Tracks window, and there's all of our tracks. Now I've already set up the inputs from the MOTU 828 here, 1 through 8, which are 8 drum mics that I showed you. And now if we want to see the mix window, we go to Windows and we click Mixer. So now I have the transport controls open. In order to record on Deck, you have to arm it by clicking the record button and then press play when you're ready. So I'm going to press play and start the recording, start the camera on the drum kit, and run across the room since I don't really have any kind of a way to remote control the Retro DAW PowerBook G3. Focused in on kind of the top part of the screen because Bias Deck, there's really not anything down here. We've got our 8 tracks worth of drums here. You can see that's the track window, and I've got the little mix window open. I was going to start trying to see what I can do with these. These are our overheads, and I don't guess that Deck lets you rename them. No, just track 7, track 8. So well, we know track 1 is our kick drum. Let's get that mixer window open again. And then here are our inserts. So let's see. I'm just going to go with like the stuff that's built in here. Let's look at EQ. Built-in EQ. Now to see that, we have to go to Window, Effect to actually see the EQ. And we have frequency, gain, and Q. So the bandwidth, control, gain, and then the frequency. I don't see where it tells me what frequency this is, or, you know, obviously this changes the frequency, but there's no indication of what frequencies these are. So, okay, let's see if there's something better than that in here. Built-in effects. Got a high shelf and low shelf EQ. What about graphic EQ? Maybe that one will be better. Okay, now we have to go back to Effect, Window, and these are labeled, so that's what I want right there. This is a kick drum track, so I'm going to take out a little bit of 400. 2.4 is not bad for some extra attack on the kick drum, so we'll do that. See what we get there with that EQ. Back to our transport window, and let's see if we can play it without causing bad things to happen. Oh, I set up locate points. That's the beginning of the section that I want right there. Mixer. Can we change the EQ while, okay, in this window, can we change that while it's playing? I found there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do with Deck. I do like the graphic EQ, which is strange. You have to assign it here with the little drop down menu on the channel of Deck. That's the kick drum that doesn't let you name the track. So that's kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, first tom, second tom, floor tom, and the 2 stereo overheads. I do have the overheads panned out about 75%. The toms are spread out a little bit, and the hi-hat's panned to the left. I like things at drummer's perspective, so that's why I pan them that way. And then I have to open my transport window now to see the controls. I did manage to set up some locate points, so this is roughly where the drum track starts because there was some pre-roll dead space there, so we can listen to the kick drum EQ. I'm going to export this and play the whole thing after I get done in a second. This is just what you're hearing through my microphone right now while I'm working on this. We can solo the kick drum. I don't know if we can work with the effects while it's playing back or not. I would think so. Let's try it. Yeah, you can hear that. Put some of that back in there. Doesn't quite need that much. So that does work. We can do that. Okay, let's try to solo up the snare drum. Do the same built-in effects, graphic EQ, and open our effect window so we can see the controls. And they're all in the same window, so I can see this is track 2. And for that, I just want to add a little bit of, well, it's got 6K, that'll work. A little bit of snap on the snare drum. And I do have the snare drum track soloed. Turn the monitors up so you can hear a little better. Maybe give it a little bit of 150. That sounds pretty decent. Pretty simplistic. Okay, let's unsolo that track. Solo the hi-hat track. We can put the graphic EQ on that too. Why not? Open back up our effect window. We can see here's our hi-hat EQ. Add a little bit of 15K just for fun to the hi-hat there. Oh, let's stop the playback, go back to our locate point, and start the playback again. Take this out of solo so we can hear the kit. Oh, if you save it, it stops your playback. Okay, lesson learned there. Some of these levels a little better. There's some funkiness in that overhead that, let's try to play that back again. Okay, stop it. Let's put that graphic EQ on these overheads. Eek. Not used to these little bitty trackpads like this. And our effect window, so we can see that our track 7A EQ is down here. And a little bit 15K. Take out a little bit of 1K and a little bit of 400. Now I need to do close to the same thing on the other overhead just because we're having some fun with this today. And oh, I guess I've already used too many of them. I can't use another one. Can I use a high shelf EQ now? Go back to our effects window. I can give it a little high shelving EQ. Maybe I can do something else with one of these other EQs that are built in here, like the low shelf EQ, plain EQ. I don't know how we're going to know what frequency that is, but let's open the effect window and find out. Yeah, that sounds pretty bad, but you know, it's not horrible. I think it could be worse. I just don't know how to use these old style plugins. I think back in the day it was probably pretty cool. master window somewhere, master outputs, so we can see what our master out's doing here. You can put some plugins on that too, looks like. I just don't see anything that I really want to use. I think I'm going to stop there and say that's as good as I'm probably going to get it with what Bias Deck gave me to work with. I did try to load some other plugins, but it seems to just crash or cause weird things to happen. So really all I'm able to do with Deck is record into it and EQ, and then we'll print a mix. And you do that by going Process, Mix to Disk, and then we'll mix it to that folder there. Final, haha. Save that as a 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz WAV file. I wasn't able to do as much with Deck 3 on the PowerBook G3 as I had hoped in the box, as far as mixing the drum tracks or kind of enhancing them to get them to sound good. But the system did perform reliably, recording 8 simultaneous tracks worth of drums. Whenever I went to mix the drums though, I found that the plugins that were built into Deck 3 were pretty limited, and the VST support, it would load them, but a lot of times it would crash or have a glitch, so I didn't put any of the glitchy parts in this video. I do think it was great software back in the day, and the built-in EQs work okay, although the plain EQ, they don't even label what frequency it is. Only the graphic EQ shows the frequency, so I used that one as much as I could, but it would only let me run 4 instances of that, so a little bit limiting. So again, I wasn't able to do as much as I'd like to have done, because I think that the PowerBook G3, the firewire external drive, and the MOTU 828 can do more. In fact, Deck is limited to 16-bit, and I know the MOTU 828 is capable of 24. I think Deck's also limited to 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, whereas the 828 will do 48 all day long. So that's what we got. I'm going to play the tweaked mix that I exported from Deck after I put some of the built-in EQs on the drum kit and panned things out. Overall, not too bad. I mean, the sound quality is good at least. I wish there had been some kind of compression plugins built in, but even the freeware VSTs that were included seemed to give the computer had problems with them, so I didn't really use any of that. It does record and play back adequately. I'm pretty sure you could assign the individual tracks to individual outputs on the interface and use a mixer and outboard gear to mix the tracks and just use it like a tape machine. I mean, it works. In fact, I like doing retro computing stuff, especially as it relates to audio. So for a future video, I may see if I can find some more adequate software and try this experiment again. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have an excellent day, night, evening, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.